According to Vietnam Concrete Association, there are mainly three approaches of measuring commercial property area. Firstly is carpet area, which is the actual usable area of an apartment. The second one is based on the built-up area, which is the carpet area plus the thickness of outer walls and the balcony. And the third one is based on the super built-up area or sellable area, which is the built-up area plus proportionate area of common areas, such as the lobby, lift shaft and stairs, etc. The first two are similar to Vietnam's property measurement approaches. However, most of Vietnamese developers just list prices rather than specify which method to apply, and experts say it may pose many potential risks to developers, investors, and home buyers. Hello and welcome to Sharing Vietnam. The lack of one uniform property measurement has caused Vietnam so many potential pitfalls and may pose risks to home buyers. So what does foreign experts say about this and what should be the solution for this? We have answer of those questions on Sharing Vietnam today with the participation of Mr. Jonathan Tizzard. He is the head of Valuation and Research at Cushman and Wakefield in Vietnam, and he's also the members of the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors and a RICS registered valuer. So first of all, thank you Mr. Jonathan for taking your time to be with us on Sharing Vietnam today.
No problem, thank you.
So Mr. Jonathan, currently two methods of property measurement are being applied in Vietnam. The first one is based on the carpet area and the second one is based on the built-up area. So which factor do they base on to determine which method to apply, Mr. Jonathan?
It's quite a misleading term because carpets, well, there aren't carpets and flats in Vietnam. It's taken from other countries. The problem is we don't know exactly what's included in the carpet area. There's no standard definition, and it changes from scheme to scheme. The same goes with built-up area. I understand that as sort of the gross external area, which basically means common areas, external walls as well. I think the easiest and most straightforward is basing on the private usable area. If you're a buyer, you want to know what space you can use. The reason that developers use these sort of gross areas is because it's a lot easier to calculate. You can look at a plan and quickly work it out, and you don't have to go through each individual flat and say, okay, can we include this area, can we not include this area?
So how would each method affect the interest of Vietnam's home buyers and sellers?
So if you imagine, a lot of flats are bought here without actually being built yet. So you're looking at a plan saying, oh, how can we work out the net floor area? Well, we can't, is the answer. So you have to make your best sort of calculation at the time. I mean, these problems for these developers who've given these flats and they're not being as big as people expected, they probably weren't intentional, but their reputations have been hurt because of this. In the UK, for example, when people buy flats off plan, they are promised a certain area, and if they're not given that area, then there are legal mechanisms to address that, through, for example, some money back damages, etc. And so a developer makes sure that they give what they promised.
So what do you think about the importance of one unified approach to measure the property area in Vietnam, especially the apartment area?
I think it's so easy to implement, really, and it just makes everybody's life so much easier. There's something called the International Property Measurement Standards Coalition, remember the name, which are trying to basically make international standards of measurement across the whole world. It just makes investors' lives a lot easier because they can come to a country and say, I know how big it is. It just makes buyers and sellers' lives so much easier. And an international or even just a Vietnam-based unified standard would get rid of these problems.
Ladies and gentlemen, many other countries also share the same problem as Vietnam in property measurement. However, they have managed to apply one uniform one. So let's find out more in our following clip. Since 2012, Hong Kong government has agreed to apply the gross internal area across the country as recommended by the RICS. On April 6 of 2013, India also adopted the carpet area, as one standard property measurement. Many other developed countries also went beyond Vietnam in applying one unified and transparent property measurement.
But I did 23 years in the U.S., primarily commercial. So in the commercial business in the U.S., we use a standard called ANSI, which I believe stands for the Architect National Institute. And they have different versions of ANSI, and it gets upgraded. It's very transparent. The system is set up to try and force resolution of any conflict before a sales and purchase agreement is signed or before a lease agreement is signed.
Ví dụ ở Úc thì ví dụ luật bất động sản thì thông thường họ sẽ có một cái chuẩn là chuẩn đo đạc đi kèm với cả cái luật đấy. Không đơn thuần là anh cứ ra một cái luật bất động sản, sau đấy anh mới ra một cái luật hoặc là anh ra một cái chuẩn mà theo cái gọi là cái gì? Theo nhu cầu của thị trường thì hai cái việc đó là không thể tách rời.
In Vietnam, the application of one consistent approach of measuring property area following the world's trend is very necessary. The issue was also highlighted in a recent workshop by Cushman and Wakefield in Vietnam, held on the 14th of November. Lê Văn Minh, who's about to purchase commercial property, was there to figure out the buyer's benefits.
Cũng không nên hoàn toàn tin tưởng vào cái thiết kế bản vẽ mà cần phải có cái sự kiểm tra thực tế. Cái thứ hai là do cái về số liệu đo đạc của ngôi nhà hoặc là ngôi căn hộ đấy nó chưa có tính thống nhất, thì trong hợp đồng cần phải làm rõ là cái diện tích mua đấy có bao gồm cả tường hay không bao gồm tường, hay tính từ tâm tường. Và hiện nay là do cái sự không rõ ràng đó mà nảy sinh ra những cái tranh chấp giữa những người mua căn hộ và những cái người chủ đầu tư, và chúng ta nên thống nhất thì nó sẽ tránh được những các cái tranh chấp không đáng có.
Currently, while there's not yet a standard measure of property to apply widely across the world, it's necessary to consider a uniform method of property measurement in Vietnam. Experts say will help to improve the market's transparency, consistency, help developers manage their portfolio easily, and pick up the investors' confidence in the market. Welcome back to Sharing Vietnam, and continue our talk with Mr. Jonathan from Cushman and Wakefield in Vietnam. So with your experience and expertise in the field of property valuation and research, can you share some similar cases in many other countries?
What we use in the UK is the gross internal area, which basically means the whole flat from the inside external walls. Normally flats are sort of box shaped, so that's quite a useful one because it's very easy to calculate. And it gives you a good idea that, if your flat's 100 square meters gross internal area, maybe 10 to 20% might be walls and areas that you can't actually use. But at least you get an idea of the size of the flat.
So obviously, the application of one uniform approach of property measurement is very necessary to eliminate any controversy between home buyers and sellers. And some other countries such as India and UK and Hong Kong have managed to do that. So how can Vietnam learn from them, Mr. Jonathan?
Quite simply, it gets rid of a lot of problems. It gives buyers more confidence and there's more transparency in the market. And if that happens, then people will buy more. Banks are more willing to lend, and it gets the market moving. So in a way, it sort of helps the economy. And as I said, it's easy to implement, but you've got to be careful that if you implement something like this, the penalty system, or if someone doesn't go with the established measurement, there needs to be a mechanism in place to address this.
So, in your opinion, is it possible to apply that method in Vietnam? And if it's possible, then how would it be adjusted to be suitable for Vietnam's context?
Well, actually, there's 23 different standard measurements across Asia, and the main the big markets, such as Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, they have their own sort of methods. And places like Vietnam, the landlord can just make up what they want sometimes. We've seen some, depending on which method you use, it can be up to like a 30% difference in the size is quoted for the same building, which is obviously really unuseful for all parties. The solution is just have one unified measurement across Asia. It's going to be incredibly difficult to implement, but at the very least, Vietnam should have its own standard, just so the buyers have some confidence in the market. It would also be very easy to implement, for example, the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. Their code of measuring practice is extremely straightforward. So they're explicit. It tells you exactly what to include, what to exclude, and they'd be more than happy, I'm sure, to help Vietnam implement that. Either Vietnam can come up with its own way of measuring. That's not a problem, as long as it's standard.
So while Vietnam hasn't applied any uniform approach of property measurement, what should be the temporary solution for the Vietnam's home sellers and buyers?
Temporary solution is to know exactly what you're buying and have it in the sale contract. And as well as having it explicitly stated in the sale contract, have a clause saying what happens if you don't get it, in terms of damages, etc. So recommend having a good lawyer, and always get your property checked if in doubt by a real estate professional. Where there's sort of a grey area in a contract, that's where the problems lie. So,
once again, thank you, Mr. Jonathan, very much for your sharing.
No problem, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the last minute of sharing Vietnam today, let's have a look at different methods of property measurement in different countries. And thank you for watching, and if you have any questions or recommendations, please send us email to sharingvietnam@vtc.vn. Goodbye and see you next time.